Move over, fairy tales, because this real-life spectacle had more sparkle than Cinderella's glass slipper and more drama than all of Bollywood's greatest hits combined. Yes, we're talking about the jaw-dropping, wallet-crushing $600 million wedding of none other than Anant Ambani, heir to India's wealthiest family. So grab your popcorn, because we're about to dive into the wedding of the century. Or should we say, the wedding of all centuries combined. Let's begin. In the world of the Ambanis, extravagance is practically a way of life, but this wedding took opulence to a whole new level. But first, let's get to know the bride and groom a little better, shall we? Meet the groom, Anant Ambani. Anant Ambani, the youngest son of Mukesh and Neeta. Ambani is no stranger to the limelight. As the heir to India's richest family, he's grown up with a silver spoon, no, make that a platinum spoon, in his mouth. Despite his wealth, Anant is known to be down to earth, but that doesn't mean he's shying away from the glittering lifestyle his family is famous for. If you're wondering what it's like to have the world at your feet, just ask Anant. He's been living it since day one. Meet the bride, Radhika Merchant, who isn't just marrying into wealth, she's bringing her own fortune to the table. The daughter of industrialist Viren Merchant, Radhika has been a part of the Ambani inner circle for years, so this wedding was probably written in the stars, or at the very least in the stock market. A lover of classical dance and a philanthropist in her own right, Radhika brings grace, poise, and a hefty dose of business acumen to the Ambani clan. Now that we know the bride and groom a little better, let's dive into the details of their extravagant wedding celebration. The Ambanis kicked off their pre-wedding festivities in May with a move that only the ultra-wealthy could pull off. They invited 800 of their closest friends and family to embark on a 4-day Mediterranean cruise. Yes, you heard that right, a private European cruise where guests sailed along the sun-drenched coasts, likely sipping on champagne as they mingled with the creme de la creme of society. Because when you're an Ambani, a simple backyard barbecue just won't cut it. But that was merely the opening act. In addition to hosting a mass wedding, also known as a Samu Viva on July 2nd, Palgar, because why have just one wedding when you can have 50? Anant and Radhika continued to push the boundaries of extravagance. They then enjoyed a night of music and dancing, or Sangeet, at the Neeta Mukesh Ambani Cultural Center 3 days later, proving that no celebration is complete without a bit of rhythm and glam. When you've got Rihanna belting out hits for a cool $8 to $9 million, Justin Bieber raking in $10 million, and a lineup that includes Akon, Katy Perry, Pitbull, Andrea Bocelli, and even the Backstreet Boys, you know this is no ordinary pre-wedding bash. It was like the Ambanis were saying, why settle for one superstar when you can have the whole galaxy? And let's be real, those were just the opening acts. As if the celebrations weren't grand enough, the couple was blessed by friends and family members during their private haldi ceremony on July 8th. Picture close friends and family gathered to smear the bride and groom with turmeric in a traditional pre-wedding ritual. But let's be real, nothing about this ceremony was humble. We can only imagine the turmeric was probably sourced from some rare organic farm and delivered by private jet. Now by the time the wedding weekend rolled around, the air was thick with anticipation. Rumors were flying. Would Adele serenade the guests with her soulful voice? Was Drake going to drop in with a surprise performance? But in true Ambani fashion, they threw a curveball and treated their guests to a global musical extravaganza. Luis Fonsi had everyone singing along to Despacito. Kanan brought out some patriotism with Waving Flag. Afrobeat star Rema cranked up the heat, and Bhangra legend Sukhbir had everyone dancing until their feet gave out. It was a musical journey around the world, packed into one unforgettable weekend. And as the curtain finally rose on the main event, the wedding itself, the guest list was as star-studded as you'd expect for an affair with a $600 million price tag. The celebrations, spanning from July 12 to 14, weren't just about exchanging vows. They were about making a statement. Picture this, a red carpet for guests that rivaled any Hollywood premiere, where the who's who of the world paraded in their finest couture. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi made an appearance, rubbing shoulders with the likes of John Cena, yes, the WWE superstar, Priyanka Chopra, Jonas and Nick Jonas, Nikki Hilton Rothschild, and James Rothschild, former UK Prime Ministers Boris Johnson and Tony Blair, and even the Kardashian clan, who, true to form, brought their own camera crew to document every lavish moment for their reality show. Because when you're Kim Kardashian, you don't just attend a wedding, you turn it into content. With a reported 2,000 guests, it was less of a wedding and more of a star-studded festival where the fashion, the gossip, and the opulence were all on full display. The final touch? Sunday's reception, or Mangal Utsav, held at the family's 27-story skyscraper mansion, Antilia. This was no ordinary reception. It was a fitting grand finale to the most talked-about wedding of the decade. As guests arrived in their finest Indian chic attire, they were greeted by a sight that could only be described as jaw-dropping. Imagine chandeliers made of diamonds, floral arrangements flown in from every corner of the globe, and a feast that would put any Michelin-starred restaurant to shame. Now let's talk about the pièce de résistance of this extravagant extravagant affair: the food. The celebration showcased culinary innovation on a global scale. The Ambanis enlisted the talents of world-renowned chefs to craft an extraordinary feast that was nothing short of a gastronomic odyssey. At the helm of this culinary adventure was Peruvian chef Virgilio Martinez, the genius behind Lima's Central, which was crowned the world's best restaurant in 2023. Martinez was flown down to Mumbai by the Ambanis to orchestrate a menu that redefined fine dining. But he wasn't alone in this quest for culinary perfection. Joining him was acclaimed Goan chef Avinash Martins, who brought his expertise to the table. Together, they created a menu that not only pushed the boundaries of Goan fine dining, but also paid homage to Gujarati culinary traditions. The result, a feast that was as innovative as it was delicious. From buttery naans paired with slow-cooked lamb shanks to fragrant biryanis alongside creamy risottos, every dish was a revelation. And for dessert, the Ambanis went all out with a spread that would make Willy Wonka jealous. Towers of macarons, trays of glistening gulab jammuns, and chocolate fountains that seemed to flow endlessly. There were also live dessert stations where chefs whipped up treats on the spot, ensuring that every sweet craving was satisfied. Of course, the beverage selection was equally opulent. Guests sipped on the finest wines and champagnes, handpicked from the best vineyards around the world. For those preferring non-alcoholic options, bespoke mocktails were crafted with the same care as the food. As the evening drew to a close, one thing was clear: the Ambani wedding had set a new standard for extravagance. Now, as if the $600 million wedding wasn't enough, Mukesh Ambani, ever the doting father, decided to throw in a little something extra for the newlyweds. And by little, we mean an $80 million 10-bedroom villa on Palm Jumeirah in Dubai. Because what better way to start married life than with a private beach at your doorstep? The villa is just one of the many ways Mukesh has ensured that Anant and Radhika's life together begins in the lap of luxury. It's the kind of wedding gift that says, congratulations, and here's a piece of paradise to go with it. And that's a wrap for today's dazzling deep dive into the $600 million wedding. For more insider scoops, jaw-dropping stories, and everything in between, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Until next time, keep dreaming big and living lavishly. Catch you in the next video.